One of their primary witnesses, their two major witnesses, are Mr. Hutchins and Mr. Zayas. And of course, Mr. Zayas was quite the character on the stand, I think we all agree. And Mr. Hutchins comes before you making a deal. Mr. Hutchins' primary motivation, his character, who he is a man, and his father, senior, and we'll talk about him in a minute, who wants to avoid any responsibility. Standing in contrast, I would suggest, to Mr. Rivera, who has come before you and told you what happened. He's told you that he's sorry and he accepts responsibility, placing the burden in your hands to decide what that responsibility is, not Mr. Hutchins. Mr. Hutchins, and as I say, Mr. Rivera has come before you, he's accepted responsibility. He's placed that responsibility in your hands. And I suggest to you that in this case, this is not a case of murder. This is a case where it is a finding that he acted in self-defense or that this was manslaughter. This is a case involving human frailty in an event that was spun out of control that led to tragic consequences for the family of Angel Lawrence, and I suggest it's led to equally tragic consequences for the family of Mr. Rivera.
See what you made me do. That's what the defendant said to Mr. Lawrence as he lay on the sidewalk struggling for breath. Look what you made me do. He says that to a man he had drawn a gun on when everyone else was cool. He said that to a man he had lit up when everyone else was fine walking away. See what you made me do. As if this was somehow Mr. Lawrence's fault that the defendant had drawn a gun and shot him with it after messing with his property. We know the evidence in this case bears otherwise. The evidence in this case is more consistent with Lee Hutchins' description of what happened here. Dad, only one, and he admitted this, the only one who told you, well, Angel said he was going to shoot somebody. Nobody else has Angel saying that. He's the only one who couldn't walk away even though everyone else says things were calm. He was the only one in the street that night with a drawn weapon. He's the only one who introduced or used deadly force. And he tells you he had to do it. And this claim that he had to do it, it all boils down to Angel having his hand behind his back. He needs you to believe that Angel's hand was behind his back to justify any kind of fright he had or concern about his own safety.